Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Benji-Sales live chat. It's so good to be back. It's so good to see everybody. How are you doing today? I hope you're all doing great. I hope you're all doing fantastic. It's so good to see you. Yeah, we're back, baby, for another week of the live chat. Now, we've got some pretty decent topics to talk about today. I would say it's not been as crazy at all as it has been the last 2 weeks, right? The two previous chats before this, we had all the insane rumors going down about Xbox multi-platform and all of that sort of stuff. And we're going to continue that conversation, of course, here this week as well, because Microsoft has officially revealed the 4 games. So there's still, of course, going to be a little bit of talk around that, but it hasn't been as crazy of a week, I would say, as like the last 2 were. But still some good topics. One of them is going to be a pretty big and beefy one, probably, and that's going to be Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Reviews just dropped today, and they are absolutely crazy. So we can probably talk about, if you guys want to, sales expectations for this game. Is it a Game of the Year contender? Is Square Enix back, baby? Whatever you guys want. To give some context around the reviews that we're seeing right now, it's over 100 reviews. It was, last I checked, I think now up to 116 reviews. So not a small sample size, a very large sample size of reviews coming in. And it's currently the second highest reviewed Final Fantasy game of all time, only behind Final Fantasy IX back on the PlayStation 1. And that game only had like 20 reviews. So, having this many reviews, it can actually be a little bit difficult to hold a higher Metacritic the more reviews that come in, because you're just going to get more and more and more opinions, right? So you're going to get a wider range. So the fact that this is right now the second highest reviewed Final Fantasy game of all time, crazy considering how many reviews it already has. It is at a 93 Metacritic, and it is the highest reviewed Final Fantasy game in the last 23 years. That's insane. So yeah, Square Enix has got, it looks to be possibly a massive hit on their hands. It's like the continuation of the JRPG story of 2024 we've been talking about a bit. So we can talk about Final Fantasy if you guys want to. In regards to Microsoft did make some announcements, like I said, around the 4 games. They had told us last week that there was going to be 4 games coming, this year, multi-platform, but they didn't name them. Well, now they have all been officially revealed. Pentiment for PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and Switch. That actually launches today. That's right, today Pentiment is going to be out for PlayStation 4, 5, and Switch. Next up is going to be Hi-Fi Rush. Now that's only going to be PlayStation 5. I'm sure you guys probably have some thoughts, comments, and questions around that, because this is a game that a lot of people thought would be great on Switch. I'm sure we're going to go into it, but as of now, no Switch version. That's going to be March 19th. The next game after that is going to be Grounded. That will be for PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and Switch. That's going to launch on April 16th. And then Sea of Thieves will be the last of the first 4 games, and that's going to be on PlayStation 5 only. Again, no Switch version, and that will be on April 30th. So pretty wild. They're going to drop 4 first-party games in essentially 2 months. I would thought these were going to be a lot more spread out, if I'm honest. Whenever they said there's going to be 4 games this year, I didn't think that necessarily meant some of them were going to launch in November, December, but I did not expect 4 back-to-back-to-back-to-back. So pretty wild there. I'm sure you guys have thoughts, comments, and questions around that, so we'll go into it. The other big announcement that just happened yesterday, I think that was yesterday, was that the Elden Ring Shadow of the Erd Tree, we had been waiting for this, right? Elden Ring, colossal seller, insane reviews. We've known for quite a while now that the big expansion's coming, but we finally have a little bit of details on it. They dropped a trailer, looked amazing. The expansion's $40. There's been a lot of debate around the price tag. Yeah, it's going to launch on June 21st. June 21st this year, Shadow of the Erd Tree is going to drop. So you guys can also ask about sales or whatever if you guys want to around that, if you guys have any thoughts on Elden Ring. Last thing I'm going to say off of the top before we get into your comments and questions, Helldivers 2 continues to absolutely explode. It hit an all-time peak of over 400,000 players this last week. It's by far the biggest success PlayStation's ever had on PC. It's not even remotely close. There's been some incredible performances that looks like on console as well. Some of you guys might have some questions about something that was put out about Helldivers in terms of platform split. I'm not sure if you guys are going to ask about it or not, but you guys can if you want to. And yeah, if you guys want to talk about Sony's Games as a Service initiative, Helldivers, the server issues, whatever you want. Okay. That's going to be it for my spiel off of the top in terms of kind of like the headlining news this week. There's been a few other things that are like not near as big, but just some updates. Like we just found out Nier Automata has sold 8 million units since launch, so we got a sales update on that. And Pal World has passed 25 million players in a month, so I think it was 15 million on Steam and 10 million on Xbox. So yeah, a few other little updates, but that's kind of the big stuff that's hit this week. And of course, there was a Nintendo Partner Direct. There was the Xbox games in there, then a bunch of third-party stuff. I didn't really lead with that because a lot of it was not, let's just say, like big, giant new game announcements. A lot of it was kind of, don't get me wrong, there was a few things in there, but a lot of it was like just kind of updates, ports, things like, you know, the new Shin Megami Tensei 5 version, which is like, you know, it's cool. I'm pumped for it, but you know what I mean? It wasn't like big, giant, new first-party Nintendo game announcements. But if you guys have any questions about that, you can too as well. All right, guys, let's get rocking and rolling into your comments and questions. If this is your first time ever as part of my live chat, the way it works, it's a stream, it's a show, it's 100% driven by you, your comments, your questions. We just talk about the latest news in the video game industry. Sorry. We talk about the latest news in the video game industry. There's going to be a few ways to do that. First of all, of course, there's the free method. You just type a question, whatever you want, pops into chat, and I get to as many free questions as I possibly can. If you want to guarantee that I get to your question, there's going to be two ways to do that. First of all, there is the super chat method. You type a donation, whatever you want, it pops into chat, and I get to super chats immediately. The other way to guarantee that you get at least one comment or question highlighted is by becoming a channel member. Channel memberships are $4.99 a month, and basically it just gives you priority in the chat. I guarantee all channel members that they get at least one comment or question highlighted every single stream. Usually they get a lot more than that, but that's basically what you get, is chat priority. All right, let's get rocking and rolling, guys. No super chats off the top, but we do have a bunch of channel members. So let's hit the channel members first. And first, I'll already start the first poll. Let's already get the first poll rocking, because you guys know I love the polls. Okay. First poll I'm going to ask you is, what of the 4 Xbox multi-platform games will find the most success? Say Sea of Thieves, Grounded, Hi-Fi Rush, or Pentiment. I love Pentiment. Obviously, Pentiment is not going to be the game that finds the most success. I'm very love, you know, that game. It's incredible. I'm still going to include it as an option because maybe one of you guys will vote for it. But what are the 4 Xbox multi-platform games will find the most success? Okay. First poll is in the chat. All right. Hamishly Ford kicking us off here. Channel member saying, hello, brother. Hope you are doing great as always. I'm doing good, Hamish. Hope you're doing great as well. I'm playing Helldivers 2 on PC, and it's great so far. I definitely recommend it to anyone who is into the concept of bringing democracy. Yeah, I have not started playing Helldivers 2 yet. I own it. I've owned it for quite a while, but I've been waiting for the servers to get fixed. So I have it. I'm very excited to play the game. I'm hearing nothing but good things about it as long as the servers are working, but I've been kind of just waiting. I'm like, at some point they're going to get this ironed out to where even if it's not perfect, it's in a pretty good spot. And when I'm on Twitter, I just see people constantly complaining about not being able to get in or getting dropped. So I've just been like, all right, I'm going to hold out a couple weeks and kind of wait until the launch issues blow over and jump in. But I'm hearing nothing but great things, Hamish. Johnny G22, channel member, what's going on, Benji? What's up, Johnny G? And Johnny G saying, definitely need to play Helldivers. Looks amazing. They need to improve the servers. Hopefully one day it can be on Xbox. One can dream. Yeah, same boat as me. I'm waiting for the servers to get fixed. What up, JCat? Good to see you in chat. What is up? Joseki channel member, hi Benji, this is probably the last chat I can see for a while. Next Thursday I will be in Tokyo. Oh dude, hype Joseki, have a blast. I'm so jealous. I'd love to go to Tokyo. Looking forward to finally be able to visit the region or the reign of Nintendo. Dude, that's amazing, Joseki. My only question this week, when do you think Switch will surpass 155 million units shipped? My guess is second half of next year. Yeah, I was actually having this debate before we got the last shipment forecast from Nintendo. I was talking to a few people, and we were trying to kind of figure that same thing out. Like, when will Switch, basically essentially take that PS2 record, or at least come right around there, right? You're saying 155 million here. And we were discussing it, and yeah, I feel pretty good about next year. Off the top of my head, what was the last Switch shipment number? Isn't it basically 140? All right, am I crazy? I know they literally just updated us, but I've always got so many different things. Yeah, it's basically 140. Yeah, 139.36. That's what I thought. So it's at 140. Obviously you expect this year to be down year over year from last year. I'm talking about 2024. That should be alleviated a little bit from how precarious it could have been now that Switch 2 has been delayed. That means that, Switch 1 is still going to get one more big holiday for itself as the only Nintendo platform. Most of us were expecting Switch 2 this holiday, so obviously we would have expected that to impacted Switch's holiday sales. Now that has been delayed, it appears. So Switch will still have one big holiday as the only Nintendo platform on the market. Yeah, I think next year it definitely happens, Joseki, and I agree. You're probably right. The second half of next year. That looks about right to me, yes. I would agree. I think you're spot on the money, Joseki. Second half, I don't know exactly what month or quarter, right? If it's Q3, Q4, second half, but second half of next year definitely makes the most sense. Dave Langer here, channel member, since Xbox has those 4 games coming out in the first 4 months of the year, it makes you wonder if they have more coming for the second half of the year. Yeah, I tweeted out wondering this myself, and I had not a ton, but I had a few people push back and be like, they said it's only these 4 games. As far as I recall, they never stated only 4. They just said during it, the wording I believe they use is that we are launching 4 games this year. That doesn't say only. Sure, you could launch 4 games, but maybe you launch 6, maybe you launch 7. I'm not saying they're going to, but I had a few people respond because I wondered the same thing. I didn't say it was a fact, but I was like, these are in a lot smaller window than I expected. And I was like, I wonder if they're going to be launching some other stuff in the second half of the year. And like I said, as far as I recall, Phil and Sarah and Matt Booty didn't specifically use the wording, these are the only 4. These were the 4 that they were going to talk about right now. It could very well be these will be the only 4. I will say I'm a bit surprised if these are the only 4. I am shocked they're going to launch them so condensed, especially because to me this summer and this holiday looks like it's going to be pretty bleak for games. I'm going to be honest. I think we're going to see a tremendous drop off in 2024 compared to 2023 in number of releases. That's not me saying that games are doomed or bad. Look at what we just are seeing with Rebirth. Look at the amazing first 2 months of the year. We got Dragon's Dogma around the corner. It's not me saying that gaming's dead or anything like that. I think it's still going to be a good year. But if you look at the calendar right now, this summer especially, and even this holiday doesn't look like it's crazy packed. And obviously some more things will still be announced. We're only in February, but it just doesn't look like. And 2023, when we were in January, we already knew 2023 was going to be absolutely insane for release cadence. 2024 just does not look that way. So I would have thought if these are the only 4 you're doing, you'd spread it out a bit to try and not cannibalize anything, kind of give each game its attention. But, it could be that they're very well only doing these 4. And just for some reason in the strategy, they wanted them all very, very close. I couldn't tell you. But I do think it's an open question. I do think it's an open question that it could be. All right. Next up. Dorian Gray, channel member here. What's up, Dorian Gray? Some other big news. PSVR 2 is officially adding PC support. Yes, that is correct. You are correct on that. I did see that. Smart. It needed to be done. It probably should have been done a long time ago. But yeah, I mean, hopefully it'll help because right now, again, we haven't gotten an official number from Sony. To me, PlayStation VR 2 sales look like they're very, very bad. We have no evidence that it's selling any decent number of units. Giving it PC support will definitely help in some ways. I don't know that it would massively accelerate sales, but it may help at least. Especially, let's say, if Sony themselves ports any VR games to Steam or PC. I don't know that they would do that, but we're seeing Sony, more and more put their games on PC. Maybe they have some VR stuff in the works that they're going to put on PC as well. So definitely a smart move. Do I think it's a game changer for PSVR 2 sales? No, but this should have been there probably a long time ago. Highlander001 channel member, I saw the temp CEO of SIE saying they're going to put their games on PC. What do you think the chances of their games going to Xbox, especially with the bad profit margins? We talked about this a bit last week. Some people are taking the comments that he made about multi-platform to mean he could be mentioning Xbox as well. I'm going to be honest, I'm not expecting to ever see a single player AAA Sony game on Xbox. I could be wrong. I'd be shocked if you, and when I say ever, I actually do mean ever. A lot of times I'm like cautious about going like too long. I'll say like, oh, in the next 5 years. Again, I'm open to being wrong, but ever. I'd be surprised if you ever see God of War on an Xbox, or I'd be surprised if you ever see, Spider-Man or, any of the other big, The Last of Us. I'd be very, very surprised if you see this. And there's going to be really one big differentiating reason I'm saying this, why Xbox, it makes more sense to launch some games on PlayStation than doing the reverse for PlayStation. And that's because there's not that many Xboxes out there. You know what I mean? Like, if Microsoft takes a game and they put it on a PlayStation consoles keep selling 100 million plus per generation. It's a huge amount of people. For Sony, taking a PlayStation first-party game and putting it on Xbox, how much do they really get out of that? I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think much. Xbox, it's not that Xbox sells nothing, but we're talking about Xbox Series right now, unless something changes. A best-case scenario looks like it could get to 50 million. That, to me, looks like the top end. I won't be surprised if it actually comes in like the 40s. It's not a giant install base, and the trade-off on optics is probably not worth it at all. So that's like the big differentiator maker. Like, Microsoft's putting their games on platforms that have significantly larger install bases than what the inverse is going to be. So do I think you're going to see a ton of PlayStation games hit PC? Yeah, I talked about this last week. The release cadence is going to get faster. I think at some point they are going to be putting even their AAA day one, like AAA single player games even, I think will be day one on PC at some point. I don't know if that's in the next 2 or 3 years. I don't know if it's in the next 5 years. But at some point, I think you'll see Sony fully embrace PC to the level that Microsoft's embraced it. But specifically putting their games on Xbox, I think that's an extremely long shot. The one exception I'll say to this is possibly some games as a service. I wouldn't necessarily rule out that. I don't know if they would have, like, let's say The Last of Us multiplayer wouldn't have gotten canceled. I don't know that they would have done that, but something like Concord, something like Fair Games, I wouldn't be utterly shocked if you saw something like that, just because games as a service, we know how they work. They need as many players as possible to be viable. Something like that I wouldn't completely rule out, but the big AAA God of Wars, Last of Us's, things like that, I think there's almost no chance we ever see it. Or if so, I think it's very far away. We're talking absolutely not this generation, maybe not even PS6 generation. I'd be surprised. Microsoft, I think, would have to massively improve their hardware sales for that to even be a discussion point at Sony. We're talking like 100 million Xboxes. And you guys know how I feel about Xbox hardware right now. I'm not confident that they can perform well at all in that space. So we'll see. I'm always open to be wrong, but I just don't see it happening. Dave Langer says they could have their bigger games going to PS5 at the end of the year. I think you mean Xbox. I'm not expecting like the Starfields and the Indies and the Hellblades, like the stuff that was rumored. The one that I'm wondering if it is legit is a Gears of War collection. I believe one thing that was interesting about Gears compared to Indiana Jones and like Hellblade 2, like some of the other ones that popped up. If I recall right, those ones were all individual sources, but I believe Gears had multiple sources, which is actually the same situation we saw for Sea of Thieves and Hi-Fi Rush. The thing that made those two, which ended up being true, by the way, the two that actually had multiple sources on it, where it wasn't just one person saying it, it was multiple people saying Hi-Fi Rush and multiple people saying Sea of Thieves, those actually happened. And I believe, unless I'm forgetting, like remembering wrong, I think Gears actually had multiple sources as well. So a Gears like collection of the first 3 games, I could see that happening in the next 12 months or so. I actually could see that happening, yeah. But again, I'm not so sure about Starfields, Hellblades, Indies, like Indiana Jones. I mean, we'll have to see on that. Carlos Moreira, channel member. Hey, Benji, what do you think? There's any possibility of Nintendo releasing their games on other platforms than mobile? Not for a long time. You know, I know that the Xbox news and announcements has caused waves of people expecting just like everything to go multi-platform. I just think that, listen, the only reason it's happening for Microsoft is because, in my opinion, because their hardware. If Microsoft, I talked about this like a few weeks ago, if Xbox was on its way to sell over 100 million units this gen, I don't think you would see any of this being announced. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but the fact that they are having essentially no growth in hardware. Now, keep in mind what I'm saying here. I'm not saying that Xbox has no growth at all. They have giant content and services growth. They have all of these studios and stuff they've purchased now, but specifically hardware, they're having zero growth. In fact, it's actually now starting to track behind Xbox One launch line. So I truly think, not that I'm saying Microsoft would have never made this move, but I think the reason you're seeing Microsoft pivot like right now, the timing of when they're doing it, is specifically because I think they're just looking at their hardware and they're like, you know, we thought we could even do better than Xbox One this gen. Maybe we had the better hardware this time around. We have all these studios that we've bought and everything now, and still nothing has happened in terms of moving our hardware. I think that's why they're making this decision right now. I don't want to ever rule out Nintendo potentially doing something, but I just don't expect that anytime soon. I'll be honest with you. I would think they would do PC before consoles, and even that is hard for me to imagine. But we'll see. Things are definitely changing in the industry right now. Ken B. So Switch 2 is delayed to next year. What will Nintendo do to push Switches this holiday? Surely S2 will be announced, and big Switch games and big games will wait for that. So what options do they have? Cut the price? Can be. I think they're not going to be that focused on really moving Switches. And whenever I say not that focused on moving Switches, it's not me saying that like they don't want to sell any, but Switch 2 is now so close. I don't think Nintendo really cares if they ship, you know, a few million more Switches for the calendar year. Like, I just think we're so late in the Switch cycle now that they'll just ride it out. I don't think they're going to be that concerned with, like, we got to make sure we have a bunch of big games this holiday. We got to make sure that we, you know, cut the price or anything like that. They'll just ride it out. Switch is still selling pretty darn well for a console as old as it is. Switch 2, from what it sounds like, the delay is still only Q1. Like, it sounds like it only got moved a few months. So it's not like this thing got pushed back 8 or 9 months. If let's say Switch 2 got delayed a full year, that's a different, you know, we're having a different conversation. If they would have delayed Switch 2 a full year, I think they would have had to make some aggressive moves to try and make sure they got some hardware sales, you know. But the fact it only moved a few months, I just don't think it really matters. If they sell, you know, 1 or 2 million more units by having a certain game somewhere, a certain price tag, it's whatever. It is what it is. So I don't expect to see much aggressive moves. Will they still have some games, you know, hitting Switch 1 for sure? The install base is so massive and everything. I just don't think they're going to do anything crazy to really accelerate their sales. I don't think it really matters at this point. Benji with a 5 super chat. Thank you so much, Benji. I didn't see you had dropped a super chat. Thank you so much. Hi, Benji. CNBC report says margin for Sony's gaming division is 6%. That is true. This is in comparison to 12 to 13% before. This seems concerning, right? It absolutely is concerning. I talked about it on last week's chat. A a lot of people were hyper focused on the reduction in hardware forecast they did because it was so major. And don't get me wrong, that's bad news too, right? You never want to miss your shipments, especially by, it looks like they might miss their forecast by up to 5 million units, right? They lowered it by 4. They went from 25 million to a 21 million forecast. But a lot of people I'm talking to in the sales community think that even 21 might be hard. I'm seeing a lot of people think they might only hit 20. If you missed your forecast by 5 million units, that's not good. That's a big difference. But that even wasn't the most concerning thing about the Sony earnings. The most concerning thing was their margins. Yeah, their profit margins are slim. Lot of reasons for that. Part of it is that their games are taking too long. That's an industry-wide problem. I know we're already getting into my spiel every single week about games taking too long, so I'm not even going to go into that. But that is part of it. Part of it is their games, frankly, just take too long to make, which is an industry-wide problem. So you've got that going on. Another big issue hurting their profit margins right now is they are very much struggling to bring down the production cost of the PlayStation 5. That surprises me this far in the gen. Was I, not shocked at all that they weren't bringing the price down in the first year or two? No, but now we're not there, but we're now going on 4 years of this console cycle, and they are not able to bring down the price, like in terms of like what it costs them to make. I know that they've discounted the PlayStation, but they flat out said by discounting the PlayStation for consumers, that's actually hurting their profit margins because they're not bringing the production cost down. So there's a whole bunch of stuff going on, but yes, the 6% is not good. That's not a good number. Now, it's not a Sony's doomed thing. There's still all sorts of great news coming out of Sony and PlayStation, but that specific number, their profit margin, it's not good. It's not a good number. Dorian Gray, what is the thing with people acting like every Xbox game is going everywhere? That makes no sense. I think at some point, almost all Xbox games are going everywhere. But the thing that I keep cautioning people is I think it's going to be like heavily timed. The idea that you're seeing floating around that, Hellblade 2 is going to launch, just a few months later on PlayStation. I don't think Microsoft's in any rush to do that. But I do think like at some point Starfield will be on PlayStation 5. Yeah, I do think that. I think most of their games will be on PlayStation 5. I just think, I talked about this last week for anyone that wasn't here last week. I think because Microsoft wasn't clear about what all is going to be multi-platform or not, or exactly the methodology behind it. I've even watched some like podcasts and stuff, and people are confused by what they're going to do. And I don't know firsthand what they're going to do, but the vibe that I get is they're essentially going to keep a game exclusive as long as they think it's driving Game Pass subscribers and console sales. And once that game is no longer contributing to either one of those metrics, they'll probably put it multi-platform. So I talked about last week, is anyone right now going out and buying an Xbox? I'm not saying when it came out, I'm saying right now. Is anyone going out and buying an Xbox or signing up to Game Pass just so they can play Hi-Fi Rush? No. Is anyone going out right now at this point in time and buying an Xbox and subbing to Game Pass just so they can play Pentiment? No. So I think Microsoft's going to be looking at these games. Right now, Starfield is probably still valuable to them in terms of feeling like it's a driver for Game Pass. It's a driver as a game in the library for exclusives to come to console. But once games have, hit their limit on that, where they're not doing anything anymore for either one of those metrics, I do think Microsoft's going to port it. I think you're going to see most, and I'm not going to say every single one, but I do think over time you will see most Xbox games get ported to other platforms. I do think so. But again, we don't know any of this for sure. Dave Langer says one of the main reasons for the margins being smaller is because they bought Bungie. They spread the costs over multiple quarters. Can I say a hot take right now? I think the Bungie purchase was bad. And I didn't think that at first. I do not think that Bungie purchase is paying off at all. I'm just going to be real with you guys. I think in retrospect, here's what I'll say. Sony needs to really hope Marathon takes off because Destiny is collapsing. Like it is. It's collapsing. I was looking at it, I think it was yesterday. It was yesterday or the day before. Guys, there are more people playing Overwatch 2 on Steam than Destiny 2 right now. And to be very clear, none of the Overwatch community plays on Steam. It's like 90% plus play it through the Blizzard launcher. And Destiny 2 is below Overwatch 2's Steam performance. Now, to be clear, one of the biggest misconceptions in the industry right now is that Overwatch is like a dead game. It's colossal, even still right now. It's in the top 10 most played games on Xbox right now as we speak. Way above games like Destiny and tons of service games. But its Steam community specifically is tiny. Almost no one's playing Overwatch through Steam. They're all playing it through the Blizzard launcher. And when I was looking at it like yesterday, the day before, there was more people playing Overwatch than Destiny on Steam. Keep in mind, Destiny used to be an absolute juggernaut on Steam. It also used to be an absolute juggernaut on console. To paint another picture of how much Destiny's collapsing, it's doing less players than Overwatch on Steam and on Xbox. Now, we don't have PlayStation visibility, unfortunately, because they only publish a top 10, but Destiny's never on there anymore. But outside of the top 10 that they publish on Xbox, because you can use Xbox because they post a top 50, Destiny right now is one place above Halo Infinite on Xbox. The game that everyone talks about being the biggest failure of all time on live service, Halo Infinite. Destiny's only one place ahead of it. Destiny is in literal collapse mode right now. Now, will some of that bounce back with the new expansion? Absolutely. So I'm not saying that, the game is completely dead, but it is collapsing. There's just no other way around it. I've been paying attention to Destiny since Destiny 1 launched. I believe, and I could be wrong here, I'm sure someone at Bungie has the exact data, but from what it looks like as an outside observer looking at every chart I can, it looks like less people are playing Destiny right now than at any point since the launch of Destiny 1. That's just what it looks like. It looks like if you look at any chart, no one's playing Destiny in terms of large numbers anymore. The expansion is going to get some of that back for sure, but do I think that the expansion is going to make Destiny 2 suddenly blow up back to as big as it was? I hope it happens. I'm always rooting for games to succeed, but I don't see much evidence of that. I think we've talked about it before. I think there's just a core issue with Destiny's development, and that's how do you attract new players. It's the most obtuse game I've almost ever seen to get someone into. So Destiny, it appears to me, is in a very, very, very bad spot. And they really need Marathon to take off. If Marathon does not massively perform amazing, I'm going to be highly questioning how much that $3 billion was worth for Bungie, man. That might have been a big miss. But we'll see. We'll see. Vex, Destiny is still free to play. And bro, Vex, when I'm comparing it to Overwatch, you need to understand, like 90% of its player base is through the Overwatch launcher. I'm only comparing it to Overwatch on Steam because Overwatch's Steam performance is so tiny. So I'm literally only using Overwatch as a number there, not to be like, oh, Overwatch is so big on Steam. I'm saying Overwatch on Steam is like bad. No one that I know anywhere plays Overwatch through Steam, right? And even whenever I saw a developer interview, he was like, yeah, basically none of our audience that plays this game transitioned to Steam. What you're seeing from Steam players is like kind of just like new people that decide to try the game out. But like our entire base that was already here is all playing it through Blizzard Launcher. I'm only comparing it to that because Overwatch is like really bad performer on Steam. So for it to at any point in time be having less players than that is like, wow. And like I said, on Xbox, it's one place above Halo Infinite. I mean, it's not doing well right now. It is not doing well. But I'm always rooting for people to succeed. So hopefully it does really, really well. And I'm not declaring the Bungie purchase was for sure bad right now. But I think they have to have Marathon take off, man. They really need Marathon to take off. Guancos has re-upped their channel membership for 8 months. Thank you so much, Guancos. Is Bro Tato more profitable after 1 million sales than the average AAA game that sells 10 million lifetime? Probably not. Probably not. By percentage, would Brotato be more profitable? Yes, it would be more. It would be more profitable for sure by percentage because these AAA games that sell 10 million have so much higher of a development cost. But in terms of total like dollar profit, no, I would say Brotato's still not going to generate. Because what is Brotato's price? How much does that game cost? It can't be that much. It's like an indie game. Let's see, I'm pulling it up right now on Steam. I'm seeing that game cost $5, but I don't know if that's real. But yeah, no, in terms of like actual dollar amount, no, it wouldn't even be close, right? These AAA games, even with ridiculous budgets, like Spider-Man 2 is still going to generate huge amounts of profit. Huge amounts, even costing $300 million, which apparently it did. This game is going to sell, 20 million lifetime. Not all of that will be at $70, but a lot of it was at $70. No, total dollars, these big AAA games that don't bomb, that like we consider successes, they're going to still just generate more profit. But by percentage, yeah, Brotato's probably way more percentage-wise profitable because the development costs had to be tiny. So it just depends on how you look at it. By percentage, Brotato, but by actual dollar per dollar, it'd be, the big AAA games. Dave Langer here. PlayStation's operating income has dropped significantly, partly because of Bungie. Yeah, we just talked about this. I don't think that's a good thing, though, Dave. I get that you're like using that as an explanation point, which is a valid thing. But I'm saying I don't think they probably should have bought Bungie. At the time, I was optimistic about the Bungie purchase, but now I ain't so sure, man. I ain't so sure about that. That might have been a bad call. But we'll see. If Marathon's a giant hit, this all looks dumb, right? If Marathon comes out and it's the next Fortnite, then, it was the best purchase of all time. All right. Have we hit all channel members? Yes. Let's hit some free questions. And let's do another poll. Okay. I asked you first, the first poll, what of the 4 Xbox multi-platform games will find the most success? 51% of you voted for Sea of Thieves, so Sea of Thieves wins the poll. Hi-Fi Rush comes in second at 46%. Third is Grounded at 3%, and last is Pentiment at 0%. Love Pentiment, but you guys are correct. Pentiment will absolutely not be that game. I agree, it's probably going to be Sea of Thieves. I think Hi-Fi will do pretty well. But, yeah, I think Sea of Thieves will probably do the best. All right, next poll. Next poll. I'm going to ask, how much will Final Fantasy VII Rebirth have sold by its first sales update? So the first sales number we get from Square Enix, how much will it have sold? We'll say 2+ million. I'm not going to go under 2 because it's going to be, We'll say 3+ million. We'll say 4+ million. Or you guys are going to go crazy all out and you're going to say 5+ million. I really don't think it'll be under 2, so that's why 2 is the lowest I put, right? So how much will Final Fantasy VII Rebirth have sold by its first sales update, we'll say, from Square Enix? They usually give it in like the first 3 days or week. Like, I'm only doing a poll like this because it's very likely we'll get a sales number. Square Enix is kind of bad about updating long-term sales. It's like real hit or miss. But for most of their big games, they usually give us a pretty fast sales update, actually. Kingdom Hearts got one. Final Fantasy VII Remake got one. Final Fantasy 16 got one. Final Fantasy 15 got one. Their big games are usually good about putting out a sales number. So we'll more than likely get this sales number. That's why I'm asking. Okay, some free questions. Logan Hardy, hey Benji, hope you're doing well. So looking at Helldivers 2, it seems PlayStation's live service games will also have their highly addictive gameplay loop. Can you imagine how much will a Horizon Online be? And it also seems Sony greenlighted diverse variety of live service games instead of making clones of the biggest ones like Fortnite. Do you think this is a good strategy? We need to see. Helldivers 2 was honestly a shocking success that no one saw coming. Arrowhead themselves didn't see it coming. So I imagine that Sony didn't see this level of success coming. I'm sure they wanted it to do well, and I'm sure they were optimistic it could do decent, but I don't think anyone expected this sort of thing. So I'm not going to predict that any of their upcoming games perform like Helldivers. If they do, amazing, but Helldivers is like incredibly doing well on Steam. Like, not even just like it's doing amazing for a PlayStation game on Steam. It's doing amazing for any game on Steam. And on console, it's above Fortnite and it's above Call of Duty in the US. It's still #1 on the PlayStation Store. So it's like, I'm going to be honest, I ain't going to predict any of their other games do that. Now, keep in mind what I'm saying here. That's not me saying they're not going to. It's just me saying, like, Helldivers 2 has been such an out-of-nowhere success. I'm not convinced at all that the Horizon game will do as well as Helldivers is going to. If it does, amazing, right? Horizon's a way bigger IP than Helldivers was before Helldivers 2 came out. But Helldivers 2, it just clicked. It worked. People loved it. The gameplay loop and all that sort of stuff. Like, there's no guarantee that that will happen at all with the Horizon game. It could come out and people hate it. So, I'm going to go a little cautious on just because Helldivers is this insane success, suddenly all of Sony's games as a service will be. Quite literally every one of them could bomb but this. We don't really know. Live service is so volatile, like who knows? I don't predict they'll all bomb, but like just because Helldivers is doing this sort of numbers does not mean at all that Concord will do this or that Fair Games will do this. If they do, that's amazing, but we'll have to see, man. But it could be. I'll tell you what, if the Horizon game, the Horizon IP is so big, if people love the Horizon game, sure, it could be gigantic. But we'll have to see. Casual Gamer, Benji, why do you think Sea of Thieves and Hi-Fi Rush didn't release on OG Switch? Do you think they're saving them for Switch 2? Yes, it's exactly what I think. A lot of people were shocked about Hi-Fi skipping Switch. I think the really only reason it skipped Switch is because 60 FPS. That game like basically requires 60 FPS to be very playable. If you've never played Hi-Fi, like if you're just like an outside observer, if you're someone on PlayStation or someone on Nintendo that has never played Hi-Fi, it might just look like this like cartoony looking sort of game. First of all, when you're actually playing it, it's gorgeous. This game is not like it's not like a cartoony type thing. Like, yes, it's cell shaded-ish looking and everything, but I'm telling you, when you play it, it's absolutely gorgeous. So it's not like the easiest tech thing of all time to run. And then second of all, it's not a game that you can just get away slapping 30 on it. If you've never played this game, the way the combat works, like it's not like a Bayonetta. It's not like a, and Bayonetta is going to obviously play better at 60 FPS and stuff as well. But what I mean is like, it's actually like literally a music-based combat game. Like you have to be hitting on rhythm to do damage in any notable way. Like if you're just spamming buttons, I'll warn you about that, by the way. If you've never played Hi-Fi Rush, you do need like decent timing to like have the combat really feel well. If you're just button mashing, like you will do not very much damage in this game. And in fact, there's going to be certain scenarios where you've got to like block and counter things. You like literally might not be able to do it if your timing's not at least okay. I haven't messed with the accessibility options, so maybe there's some stuff in there to make it easier. But you need 60 FPS. Like this isn't a game you just slap 30 on. So my guess is they probably tried and just could not get this running at 60. Maybe they could have gotten it running at 30, but they thought it would have ruined the experience. So I think you'll see it on Switch too. They're probably just saving it for that. And same thing for Sea of Thieves. I'm guessing Sea of Thieves and this were just both technically not capable, so they saved it. But I think you see them both on Switch too. Casual Gamer, do you think more Xbox Studios titles will release on other platforms, or do you think it will be only smaller or live service, case by case? I think it's going to be case by case. I think eventually almost everything will go on other platforms over time. I think we had a super chat. Let me hit that. Highlander with a 5 super chat. Your thoughts on Diablo 4 going to Game Pass? Give me a second. Someone just pulled up, so my dog's going crazy. If he doesn't stop in the next few seconds, I'll let him outside. It's super warm here, but give me just a minute. Highlander with a 5 super chat. Your thoughts on Diablo 4 going to Game Pass, and when do you think the rest of the Activision and Blizzard games... I'm actually just going to do it because I can't even hear myself think. Give me 5 seconds. I'll be right back. Give me just a sec. All right. Okay, I'm back. Sorry. Let me make sure I'm unmuted. Yeah, I am. Okay, Highlander with a 5 super chat. Your thoughts on Diablo 4 going to Game Pass, and when do you think the rest of Activision Blizzard games go to Game Pass? Hope you're doing great. I'm doing good, Highlander. Diablo 4 going to Game Pass makes sense. Don't think there's anything surprising about this at all. I mean, I hate to say it. I think it's a pretty straightforward thing to say. I think you'll just see Activision Blizzard games coming to Game Pass day one whenever they release. They essentially said that. And when you'll get more, it probably just comes down to like what Phil and them said, like licensing and things like that. They're just working some stuff out. But throughout the year, you'll probably see a bunch of stuff hitting throughout the year. And the big question is Call of Duty this year going to be day one on Game Pass? They've confirmed that Call of Duty will be a day one Game Pass title moving forward. We're just still not 100% sure, just because no one has outright stated it, if that applies to Call of Duty 2024 or not, because there's been that weird nebulous thing with like the Sony marketing deal. So that's the big question. But yeah, other than that, they should start popping soon. Wow, Michael Yu with a crazy stat here. Michael Yu, regarding Destiny 2 numbers on Steam, for January and February year-over-year numbers in terms of average number of players, January down 39.5%, and February so far down 56.9%. Like, that's a massive collapse, guys. You guys know I'm always rooting for every game to succeed, and I hope Destiny has a giant bounce back with the next expansion. But guys, I'm telling you, I watch these charts like crazy. It's not in a good spot. Destiny is not in a good spot. It's really not. They really need Marathon to be a huge hit, in my opinion. I've told you what I think the problem for Destiny is. Even though I know like the community is upset with some stuff right now, like the actual hardcore Destiny community that still plays Destiny every week, I actually don't even think that's the biggest problem. The biggest problem is, how are you attracting new players? That game is so obtuse to get into. I have a feeling that most people that boot Destiny 2 up for the first time to try it out probably don't stick around long. And I could be wrong. Again, I don't have this data firsthand, but I suspect, unless you already have a group of friends that are playing Destiny, but if you don't, like you're just a newbie who's like, I want to try this game out. I've talked about it before, like Fortnite. The reason Fortnite stays so high year in, year out, the reason Call of Duty stays so high year in, year out, even bad Call of Duties are still like the #2 most played game in the world. Apex Legends, the reason that stays pretty high. Most of these other big service games, like a new player can boot it up and within like 5 minutes know what's happening. You literally can't do that with Destiny. Even if you've played Destiny for years and you don't play it for like a year or two, who knows what the hell is going on. So they need to never structure a game they develop again like they structured Destiny 2. If they ever make Destiny 3, they can never do what they did with Destiny 2. They got to make that game always accessible to get into if you're a new player. Because I think that's actually the biggest problem. I think they're just not attracting new players. All right. Timmer, what's up, Timmer? Saying no question. Good to see you, Timmer. Blazing Flame. Hi there, Benji. When do you think the PS6 will release? 2027 or 2028? Do you think the PS5 will be supported with both first and third-party titles 1 to 2 years after PS6 releases for cross-gen? Yes to the second question. I don't think we'll ever see a console again where, people just instantly drop the old platform. So yeah, I would say at least 2 years of cross-gen once PS6 gets here. And I expect it in 2028. I just keep going with 2028 because that's what they said in court. Hey Benji, from Batman Forever. Do you think Epic Mickey Rebrushed will do well? It does well. Do you think we will get a remake of the second game, even a third new one? I have minimally low expectations for that. So if it performs well, awesome. But that is, I will say, not a game I'm looking at to perform super well. So we'll see. You never know. But yeah, I don't know. It doesn't scream to me like a game that's just going to come out of nowhere and sell a ton of units. Zinfamous, hey Benji, do you think part of Xbox's issue is sometimes they talk too much, and that's what leads to their messaging and PR criticisms? There have been statements and tweets that have come back to bite Xbox execs repeatedly. Nintendo and PlayStation don't seem to have this issue because most of the time they just don't say anything, which can be frustrating but also helps them. That is actually a decent point that I hadn't really thought about. On one hand, I like how open Xbox executives are. You don't, like you mentioned, you literally see no one from Nintendo or Sony act like how Phil Spencer does on Twitter, or even with the gaming community in general. Like you see Phil Spencer hop on Kinda Funny, for example, or he'll hop on, IGN's Xbox Unlocked sometimes. I think that's what it's called. Sometimes, you don't see Jim Ryan anywhere. Unless it's an official Sony thing, you don't see Jim. You don't see Herman really ever showing up anywhere once he became an executive. You just don't really see him. Nintendo, you just don't really see them. So on one hand, I really respect. I think it's cool that that Phil engages so much with the community. But on the other side, you do make a good point, Zinfamous. Part of staying away from doing that is, like you said, it could be frustrating for fans not hearing more directly from Nintendo and Sony execs, but they also have less stuff that can potentially come back and bite them in the butt. So it's a decent point. I will be honest. It's definitely two very different thought processes. And then you say, also looks like Ilya won't be a laughingstock. Yeah, I got to give it to him, man. He pulled it off because he talked the talk and walked the walk. Hated seeing Volk go down like that. Volk taking that second Islam fight may go down as one of the worst decisions a UFC fighter has made, along with Cejudo overplaying his hand and retiring the first time. I agree. I do want to push back on one thing that I am seeing in the MMA community, though. And this is coming from someone that wanted Ilya to lose. I think if Volk takes that second fight or not, he gets knocked out by Ilya either way. The reason Volk got knocked out is because Ilya capitalized on one of Volk's biggest mistakes. And I got to give it to Ilya. If you heard him on his post-fight press conference talk about why he was able to knock him out in the first round and why he had some issues in the first, and him explain it, Volk has a bad habit. And listen, it's actually, when I say it's a bad habit, it's actually intentional. But Volk pulls back a lot. He does something very similar to Izzy, which kind of makes sense considering the area and gyms they train out of. They both like to pull back a lot from shots, use their speed, use their vision, their timing. They're not high guard guys. They're not guys that are, real behind their guard. They're guys that are a little more open, and there's advantages to fighting like that. But there's also disadvantages. And how did Ilya not get Volk knocked out? It was exactly that. It was Volk moving away from shots, up against the fence, trying to move back. And Ilya said it was about multiple combinations because we knew if he's moving, he does that. He moves and pulls back. Maybe the first shot's not going to be the one to knock him out. But if I'm throwing in combos, if I'm throwing 2-3 strikes, he can pull back and maybe miss one of them. But if I'm following up, one of them's going to land. And when you hit as hard as Ilya, that's all she wrote. And I honestly, truly think even if Volk never takes that Islam second fight, he gets knocked out the exact same way by Ilya. I think it's a fight Volk can win, by the way, because I had Volk winning the first round. All three judges did as well. And I also thought Volk was winning the second round up until he got knocked out. But the reality is even if they fight again, unless Volk changes that specific thing, he cannot do that pull back, moving away from. He just can't. Now with someone that hits as hard as Ilya, you got to have defenses raised high, and he needs to wrestle a lot more too. By the way, so I agree. It was still definitely a bad idea to take that second Islam fight, but I think almost nothing changes. I think he still gets knocked out the exact same way. It turns out, it looks like to me, Ilya is just a bad matchup for him. You know, they always say styles make fights. I think Ilya is just a bad matchup. Too much power. Too much power for someone that fights the way Volk does. Arabic Gamer, what's up? Saying, hi, if Epic Mickey rebrushed his success... it's a very similar question. You guys are interested in Epic Mickey, huh? I had no expectations for this, but multiple questions about it. Do you think we will get more classic Disney games? If so, do you think that will be in more remakes and remasters or new games or both? I'll be honest, I didn't put much thought at all into this, Epic Mickey thing, but now we're getting multiple questions, so clearly there's interest. Sure, maybe. I know it's a boring answer, Arabic Gamer, but I'll be just frank. I hadn't put much thought into this. I really didn't expect to get any questions about Epic Mickey today. Shows how much I know, right? But sure, these companies are always looking to make money. If Epic Mickey does well, sure, you could probably see more. Deadly 8, do you think all future Activision titles will remain multi-platform? I do, actually, yeah. I do. You might see the Rare exclusive, but that is actually something I changed my mind on. I originally thought Call of Duty will stay multi-platform. Sure, Overwatch is going to stay multi-platform, but I was like, I don't know. I could see them making like the Crash Bandicoot games if they ever do more Crash. I could see them making that exclusive, or I could see them making Spyro exclusive if they do more, or Tony Hawk or whatever. No, I don't think so anymore. I think just that'll all be multi-platform, man. And the last, like I said, maybe there's like a rare exception, but I really think they're going to just pretty much keep everything Activision Blizzard just basically fully multi-plat. Venom Harness, ahoy, Benji. What's up? What is your thoughts on no new established first-party title until after March 2025? Does that rule out spin-offs or smaller-scaled games? It does not, especially if you believe the report coming from Jeff Grubb. Jeff Grubb hinted there will be a new Astrobot game this year. So it doesn't rule out smaller things, spin-off things. Like the way that that Sony worded it, it wasn't that they would have, there was two misconceptions about that. One, I saw people reporting, they said there's going to be no first-party games, like period, which is not what they said. And then two, I saw people saying, they said there will be 0 games from a franchise this year. Again, they didn't say either of those things. They said there would be no, like, massive games from an established franchise. And the two examples they used were God of War Ragnarok and Spider-Man 2. They were basically just signaling to their investors, don't expect a new Last of Us game this year. Don't expect Ghost of Tsushima 2 this year. Don't expect, you know what I mean? Their biggest titles. Don't expect the full-fledged sequels to drop this next year. But that doesn't mean that they could have something smaller in a franchise. In fact, like I said, if you believe Grubb, they literally do. They have a new Astrobot game. So we'll have to see. But yeah, it doesn't rule out stuff like that potentially happening. It's just don't expect a giant AAA single-player sequel like Ghost of Tsushima 2 or something. That's not going to happen by March 2025. It would be after that. So that's basically what they were saying. What up, J Cat? Said hi to you earlier. Venom Harness, is PlayStation having trouble with development? Yes, because everyone in the industry is. Most of their games take 6+ years. Yep, same for Xbox. And again, you don't want me to go on a spiel about this because I do it every chat. Why we don't see many first-party games often? Does it mean some PS Studios titles will be PS6 only? Yeah, I'm not going to go into it. You guys are sick of me saying it, and I'm sick of repeating it. Yes, there is a reckoning for AAA development incoming. Yes, in fact, we're seeing the effects of it right now. Yes, it's already happening. Yep. I'll tell you what. People really need to respect Sean Layden. Sean Layden does not get enough credit. And it's still, to me, a massive shame what happened to him at Sony. We never found out why he left Sony. To me, all evidence is pointed to that Sean Layden himself never wanted to leave Sony and PlayStation. And I'll tell you what, you go back a few years, Sean Layden was literally telling you guys this was coming. Literally. You can go back and look at his comments. He was saying games are taking too long. AAA development's getting too expensive. We need to start making more AA-sized games, even at first party. We need to start making smaller scoped games. We need to, in between these big giant releases. He was telling everyone years ago this was coming. And now it's a reckoning for the industry. It's bad. It's bad, man. Your question, will there be studios that have one game this generation? Yes, Sucker Punch. Bend Studio. They'll both be single games on PS5. If Sucker Punch still hasn't gotten Ghost of Tsushima 2 out, we know Ghost of Tsushima 2 will not be out before March 2025. So that means it's going to be after that. So you optimistically say that Ghost of Tsushima 2 will be, let's go optimistic. Let's say it's holiday 2025. The next game will take a minimum of 4 years to release. Guess what? That's 2029. You're actually already more than a year into PS6. That's a one game per gen studio right there. Bend Studio hasn't released a game this year. Again, we know it ain't coming before March 2025. Guess what? Their next game after that, minimum of 4 years. Guess what? Bend Studio, one game per generation. That is, yeah, your question, is that a thing? Oh, it's a thing. Naughty Dog very well may have one original new title this generation. Keep in mind what I'm saying. Yes, they did Last of Us Part 2 remastered. Yes, they did Last of Us Part 1, a remake and a remaster. Yes, they have multiple games in development. From what it sounds like, Last of Us Part 3 is very early. Neil said just last year, from what Neil described last year, the script wasn't even written, okay? So I saw some people being like, oh, well, Neil's comments, that was a year ago. So that means The Last of Us Part 3 is well into development. Guys, a year ago, he didn't even have the script written. That means it wasn't even in pre-production. They had a concept. They didn't even have a script, okay? From that point in development, minimum of 4 to 5 years. Yes, they have something else in development, but if it's 5 years, right? If The Last of Us Part 3 is still another 4 or 5 years from now, guess where that puts us? Next generation. So that means that other game, which might be a new IP, that might be Naughty Dog's only original title this generation. You guys see what I'm going into when I say all the time this is unsustainable. That's not a Sony only problem. That is an industry-wide problem. When I tell you it's unsustainable, that's not me saying it's an opinion. It is not sustainable. It is not. Okay? And you're already seeing tons of layoffs. You're already seeing, by the way, one of the most underreported things is tons of game cancellations and also publishers afraid to greenlight anything. There's a potential scenario 3 to 4 years from now where we really feel these effects, where the amount of actual big new AAA games releasing per year could be very low. A lot of people don't realize that, but that very well could be coming. It's not good, man. If I've said it a ton, and I'm not going to go too far into it. If the industry does not fix game development times, there's no fixing the industry. There is no fixing. That is the core problem. That is the core problem affecting everything else. It's like a domino effect affecting everything else in the industry. So, yeah. Does Sony have a development problem? Yes, they do. So does Xbox. So does EA. So does Activision. So does Take-Two. They all do. They all got a development problem. It's every one of them. And it's not me blaming devs. I say it every time. The devs are working as hard as they can. But something's got to get fixed. Reducing scope of games, reducing graphic goals as games, releasing more AA games in between, something. But yeah, it's unsustainable currently. I think we had a super chat. We did. Benji with a 5 super chat. Hi, Benji. NVIDIA posted absurd numbers yesterday. Yeah, absurd. You want to talk about a company with margins? Guys, we were talking about how Sony, like, them profit margins are awfully slim at 6%. You know what freaking NVIDIA's profit margin was? I believe I saw 76%. What the I'm not even going to say the word, but I edited myself. What the heck? NVIDIA's insane, dude. Microsoft announced $15 billion partnership with Intel. Do you expect Microsoft to move from AMD? If yes, for who? I think there's a real chance Microsoft could move away from AMD, yeah. And I wouldn't have predicted that until the slides leaked, right? And they said flat out in those slides that they were debating other things. They were talking about, going to ARM and stuff like that. So, yeah. Do I think there's a chance they move away from AMD? Sure. Do I think it's like a lock? No. But we basically know from leaked internal documents from Microsoft that they are debating moving away from AMD. So sure. The problem with NVIDIA is price. NVIDIA isn't going to give them any tech for cheap, right? The reason Nintendo's able to use NVIDIA is because Nintendo is comfortable going for not cutting edge stuff, right? They're using very old, for the most part, NVIDIA technology. Consoles are always trying to be, when they first release, pretty comparable to like a high-end PC. I'm not saying it's going to match the highest end PC, but when Series X and PS5 launched, they were the equivalent of a really awesome gaming PC. They weren't the best gaming PC in the world, but it was an equivalent to, yeah, this is a good gaming PC. Nintendo's not doing that at all. So that is the biggest issue. People, if Microsoft goes to NVIDIA, it's probably going to cost them a lot more for production than AMD unless they can work something out, but we'll have to see. So I don't know. Because I've seen a lot of people theorize, because Microsoft's talking about the biggest jump between generations ever and stuff, that maybe they're going to go NVIDIA. It would be crazy. It would be awesome. But I don't know. I just don't know if they could make an NVIDIA-powered Xbox that would be remotely affordable. But I don't know. We'll have to see. Maybe they can work out some sort of deal. But I don't know, man. Might be tough. All right, how long have we been going? I'm going to go for about 20, 30 minutes more. All right, where are we at? JCat with a great question. Here's the big question. Can this review score increase the sales ceiling of Final Fantasy Rebirth despite it being part 2 of a trilogy? JCat, I am surprised I'm saying this. I actually think it will. The reviews are so high that I actually think we will see a sales impact from it, JCat. And I was actually thinking that launch sales of Rebirth might be lower than Remake before reviews came out. Strictly because, like you mentioned, it's the second part in a trilogy. And not always, but oftentimes for a second part in a trilogy, even in movies, by the way, you'll a lot of times see a box office decrease. Now, again, this isn't always the truth. In fact, sometimes sequels way outperform like the first. But I was thinking like Rebirth will probably still sell really, really good. But, I don't know if it'll really match Remake because it is such a direct sequel, right? Like we've said before, it's not like some sequels where it's like, yeah, you have returning characters and stuff, but it's pretty separate. Like, I'll be honest, Jedi Survivor. I think you could play Star Wars Jedi Survivor without ever playing Fallen Order. Are there ties to the first game? Absolutely. Are there going to be characters that you know more without playing the first game? Absolutely. But like, Jedi Survivor's story is kind of self-contained. Links to Fallen Order, but it's kind of its own thing. Like, that's a sequel definitely designed narrative-wise. You don't have to play the first. Like, Rebirth is so intrinsically tied to Remake that I thought that might hold some people back. But I don't know. These scores are so high. I actually think it will have a real impact on sales. Yeah, I do. I actually do, especially at launch. I don't know about if it'll affect the tail end sales or anything, but I do think it'll impact launch sales. Yeah, because they're so high. We're not talking about a game that, it went from like an 82 Metacritic to an 86. I mean, 93 is insane. Especially for a JRPG, by the way. 93 is insane. So yeah, I actually think it will. And in fact, let's look at your poll results. I asked you, how much will Final Fantasy VII Rebirth sell with its first sales update from Square Enix? The winner, 40% of you go 3+ million. I'm in the same boat as you. I think 3+ million will be their first number. What that will be, I don't know. Will it be 3 million? Will it be 3.5? Will it be 3.8? I don't know. But I'm also with you guys. I think the first number we get from Square Enix is going to be 3+ million. Second place was 2+ million at 26%. Third place was 5+ million at 21%, and fourth place was 4+ million at 14%. So a lot of you guys are expecting big sales, man. I'm with you. 3+ million, I think, will be that first number. Lolo, hi Benji. Are you expecting more Xbox exclusive games coming to PlayStation and Switch after the first batch? Oh yeah. I'm expecting just about everything at some point or another. Until proven wrong. Until they prove me wrong, I think you're going to see most stuff eventually. Samir saying, hey. Gilly Ghost is saying, hey. What's up? Cookie Cutter, Benji, do you think the Nintendo Switch will be announced in summer of this year and released in early 2025? That is the rumors, not my rumors, but those are the rumors being reported. Do you expect Switch 2 only first-party games or cross-gen for a while? I suspect they'll be pretty heavy cross-gen for quite some time. I'm not going to rule out that there is some Switch 2 only games from Nintendo, but I think they'd be pretty few and far between just because the install base is so ridiculous for Switch. I mean, it's so ridiculous. 140 million as of now. With Switch 2 now releasing next year, you're probably going to be around 150 million by the time the Switch 2 launches. I mean, that's so many consoles to ignore. So, yeah, I won't rule out you see one or two Switch 2 only games from Nintendo. In fact, I'd say it's probably likely, actually, that they have one or two. I'm not saying a bunch, but like something to really attract the hardcores to get in and, you know, get that new Switch 2 that they can only play this game. But I suspect the bulk of Nintendo games in development are going to be cross-gen for at least the first year or two. The audience is too big. Savage Raccoon, can we talk about how great of a year JRPGs have been doing and their future? This is the year of the Japanese developer. I've been saying that. This is the year of the Japanese dev. Especially, I'll say, let me highlight the year of the Japanese third-party, right, publishers and developers. Because, of course, Nintendo's been a juggernaut for forever. Sony is still technically a Japanese company, even though in so many ways we think of them as a Western company now, because most of the games they develop are from Western studios, and like most of their biggest games are Call of Duties and like PlayStation feels like a Western brand, but they are owned by a Japanese company. But like in terms of third parties, man, you talk about Sega absolutely killing it with Infinite Wealth, killing it with Persona 3 Reload. You have, I'm very critical of Square Enix, as you guys all know. I think Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is gearing up to be a huge success, especially at launch. You had Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, which did over 1 million super fast. You had Tekken 8 outperform expectations, sell faster than Street Fighter 6. You've got Dragon's Dogma 2 right around the corner. I mean, we just got to be honest. Japanese developers and publishers are carrying this year so far. And Pal World, you can't count out Pal World either. That's also a Japanese studio, Pocket Pair. I mean, it is literally the year of the Japanese dev right now. It truly is. Whether that's RPGs or even fighting games like Tekken and survival games like Pal World, it is. 2024 is the year of the Japanese third-party developer. They're just killing it. Absolutely killing it. AV, 6.8 million views in a day for a DLC trailer. Yeah, I mean, make no mistake. Shadow of the Erd Tree is going to go crazy. It's going to go crazy. Vex, Benji, let's talk about Helldivers 2 explosive success. PlayStation first live service out the gate. This gives me hope for Concord and Twisted Metal, which look to release in 2024, both live service. I hope. I'm going to be a little more cautious than some of you guys. I think live service is very dangerous, but I hope. I'm rooting for them both to succeed. Oh, and Cookie Cutter, sorry, I forgot to answer the other part, and you're asking it again here. Do I think that they're going to announce the Switch 2? Yeah, they're going to announce it this summer, is all the reports. Again, this is not my inside information, but the things that are being floated around is they're announcing it this summer. Yeah, probably June. So, yep. Do I think they'll announce games 2 to 3 years away? No. No, I don't think so. I think when they reveal the Switch 2, they're going to be very focused at first year for the Switch 2. That's what I think. They'll probably try and sell you on the first year of Switch 2, whatever it's called. I'm not saying they're going to announce every game that launches in the first year, but that's how they'll phrase it. These are the games coming in the first year of Switch 2. Is it possible they announce 1 or 2 games that are that far out, 2 or 3 years? Sure, but I think they'll be mostly focused on that first year of Switch 2. Vex, the $40 price tag for multiplayer seems like the sweet spot. More publishers should make the multiplayer live service $40 than $70 like Skull and Bones. Yeah, I think asking $70 for a multiplayer only game in 2024 that is not Call of Duty is insane. Good luck. With all the free-to-play competition out there, one of the smartest things they did with Helldivers 2 was making that game only $40. If you're not Call of Duty, I don't think you can get away with $70 because of all the free-to-play competition. That's the issue. If free-to-play wasn't like this giant juggernaut, like if everything, like let's say Fortnite, to get into Fortnite, you had to spend $70, or Apex, or you know what I mean. If there wasn't all of this free-to-play out there, then sure. But like nowadays, when people have so many giant free-to-play options for multiplayer specifically, and then being like, well, here's this game that's $70, it's the only way to get into it. Good luck, man. Good luck. Call of Duty gets away with it, but that's because it's Call of Duty. That's about the only thing I think that can get away with it. Otherwise, I agree, Vex, that $40 price tag, real smart. I think they should do the same thing for Concord and stuff if they're not free-to-play games. The multiplayer games they're going to launch that aren't free-to-play, $40, I agree. That seems like the sweet spot because I think you'll struggle at 70, man. Elvin, hoping one day Dead Rising 3 will arrive on PlayStation? Sure, why not? I don't see why I wouldn't at some point. Gordon, Benji, you taking any time off work to play Rebirth? I have a few days off. I'm not. And I actually probably won't even be able to play Rebirth at launch because I'm playing Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth right now, and that game is like ridiculously long. So it'll probably be, I probably won't get into Rebirth until maybe even a week after it comes out. I have it pre-ordered. I'm getting the deluxe edition. But it may take me a little bit to get into it. As excited as I am for it, I'm on Infinite Wealth right now, and I'm not going to drop Infinite Wealth because it's amazing. So it may take me a little bit to get to it. Vex, what's the likelihood of Gears 6 being day and date on PlayStation? It's using Unreal Engine 5. If Microsoft wants to revive the Gears franchise, releasing on PS day and date, if quality can revive franchise. No, I don't expect that at all. Don't expect that at all. If they did it, crazy. But no, I don't think so. Now, will Gears 6 eventually one day go to PlayStation? Very well could. But at launch, I don't see that now. Like I said, I think they're just going to do timed on basically everything. And they'll just see how it goes. And once a game isn't selling consoles and isn't driving Game Pass subs, they'll be like, all right, now it's time to get some more money out of it. But I could be wrong. Let's talk about Disney has more say if they want Spider-Man on Xbox or Nintendo. Just looked at the leaked contract. Sure, Disney could come in and throw their weight around, but I don't know that they're going to really want to do that. Things are going so well right now. Let's taco. I think the only way Disney would put their foot down and demand the Marvel stuff start going multi-platform would be if like some of these X-Men games that are coming underperform. Then maybe you would see it. Like let's say that Wolverine comes out, and I don't expect this at all, but let's just say it comes out and way underperforms, doesn't sell anything close to a Spider-Man game, or something like that. Then maybe Disney would be like, listen, we're not getting the kind of returns we want off this. If you want to continue the Marvel contract, we want, some stuff to go multi-platform. Maybe then, but as long as these games are selling 20 plus million, I don't think they'll really care. Again, I'm not trying to be mean to Xbox. One thing people underestimate is there's not that many Xboxes out there. That really changes things, man. There's just not that many. Again, all of these conversations are different if there's 100 million plus Xboxes out there, but there's not. That's the problem for them. There's just not that much. GOAT status, games sell consoles, they haven't had the games. I had that opinion. In fact, I even made a video responding to Phil when he said that it wasn't going to do that for them. And it was one of my most well-received videos ever. And I said recently, I actually think I was wrong and Phil was right. I think they have a brand problem. I don't know how they could turn around hardware, even with great games. I honestly think Phil was right. And this is literally coming from someone that literally made a video telling Phil that he was wrong. And I'm saying, actually, I think maybe I was wrong and Phil was right. I don't know how they could turn hardware around at this point. I'd love to be wrong. I'd love Fable to come out, be a, 95 Metacritic game and sell millions of Xboxes. But I don't know how they overcome their brand problem. I think it would take many, many games over the course of years to turn it around. So could it maybe happen? Sure, but I think it would take years. Yeah, many years of just huge game, all being like 90 plus, high 80s metas over and over and over again. Like, it would take years, I think. I think the idea that like an individual awesome first-party game is going to come out and sell tons of Xboxes, I don't think so. The problem is that they have a brand problem and their competitors' brands are enormously powerful. Both PlayStation and Nintendo have enormously powerful brands. Russ, Bloodborne remake news. Could happen, yeah. Hopefully one day. I saw that he basically said that he's open to the idea, right? They should make it happen. Vex, Sony needs to bolster first party with smaller games and needs to expand to mobile. They definitely need to have more smaller games, yes. Yes. That's one thing the industry could do to help themselves out while they try and figure out how they're going to bring dev times down is make more AA-sized games. Yeah. Human, is anyone going to buy the next Xbox if all their games eventually go to PlayStation? Again, probably whether their games went to PlayStation or not, they probably weren't going to sell a ton of Xboxes next gen anyways. I sound as defeatist as Phil did, but I have completely given up on Xbox hardware performance. I've said, I will believe that Xbox can sell a huge amount of Xboxes whenever they can show they can sell a huge amount of Xboxes. It's been so long. Everyone likes to talk about the glory 360 days. Do you guys know how long ago that was? I mean, that was a long time ago. It's not like the glory days were just a couple years ago. Guys, it was a long time ago. And this is not me hating on Xbox. I really like Xbox. But if we're talking specifically about hardware sales, I'll believe they can sell a ton of Xboxes when they actually start selling a ton of Xboxes. Here's a nuclear hot take. Scratch Acid, will many Call of Duty players sub to Game Pass when the Call of Duty games are on there? Yes. My scorching hot take is that Call of Duty won't be an enormous Game Pass driver. If you own a PlayStation, why wouldn't you just still buy it on PlayStation? And if you already own an Xbox, you're probably already subbed to Game Pass. So the only area that will drive growth for Game Pass will be PC. So we'll have to see how much it drives PC Game Pass growth. But I've been saying this for a while. If you already own a PlayStation, right? Like let's say you own a PS5, it is far cheaper for you to just buy Call of Duty for $70 than it is to go out, buy an Xbox, then on top of buying your Xbox, then subbing to Game Pass, and on top of all of that, then switching the platform you play the game on from PlayStation to Xbox. Why would you just not buy it for $70? It's cheaper. And you just play it on the same platform you already played it on. So they're not going to convert many, if any, and there'll be a few, I'm sure, but they're not going to convert many PlayStation gamers to Game Pass and buying Xboxes. On Xbox, we already know that they have very stagnant growth through Game Pass subs on Xbox. They've even outright said that pretty much most of the growth right now is coming through PC. So I don't know how many people own an Xbox right now that aren't subbed to Game Pass that will specifically sub for Call of Duty. So it's really just PC. Like the vast majority of growth they would get for any sort of Game Pass increase from Call of Duty will be specifically through PC. So maybe they're going to gain a ton of subs through PC because of Call of Duty, but that's really the only area they'll gain a lot. Yeah, they won't gain a ton through consoles. Infinity Doc and JCat both agree about Bungie. JCat says, I agree. I think buying Bungie was not a good investment. Infinity Doc, I agree. Bungie purchase was great for Bungie, terrible for Sony, which is probably why Microsoft passed on them. Human, the hamster wheel of a game like Destiny can only last so long. Yeah, we'll have to see. Like I said, I'm not full doomer on Bungie yet. We need to see. Maybe Marathon's a giant hit. I'm just saying right now, the current state where we're at right now, do I think it's paid off for Sony right now in the short term? I do not think so. I don't think Destiny's bringing in that much money right now. But again, all of this can change. Maybe Destiny surprisingly massively rebounds. Maybe Marathon's a giant hit. Maybe Bungie drops Destiny 3 shockingly in the next 3 or 4 years and it's a colossal hit. Like there's scenarios where Bungie works out like super good long term. But in the short term, I don't think Bungie's been good at all. I don't think it's been a good investment at all in the short term. But this can all change. Boca Loca, isn't Marathon a remake? No, it's using an old IP, but it's a totally different type of game. It's an extraction shooter. It's like Tarkov. I'm not saying it's going to play exactly like that, but it's that genre. It's an extraction shooter. Goat says, Halo isn't the worst live service of all time. I agree, but I'm saying a lot of people think of Halo Infinite that way, whether it's true or not. I don't think it's the worst live service of all time, but trust me, there's a lot of people with that opinion. Infinity Doc Lightfall killed my love for the game. I've talked about it before. I was like a hardcore Destiny fan, guys. I played Destiny 1. Like, let's look. I don't know if it'll show you on the PS app. Yeah, it doesn't. Whenever you're on PlayStation, like it'll show you like your play time. And like if you click on someone's profile, it'll show you like their top 3 most played games ever on PlayStation or whatever. Put it this way. I've put quite literally, without exaggeration, thousands of hours into Destiny. Okay, thousands. What killed my love for it was that it was actually back with Witch Queen, which I know is actually one of the more well-received expansions. But I've talked about it before, so I'll make it fast, but for anyone that didn't see it. Right, because it went from Beyond Light, I think, to Witch Queen. Destiny 1 played every expansion, even in the downtimes of Destiny, loved it. Destiny 2 loved it, played it religiously through Beyond Light. And then something happened where I was busy with other stuff and things like that. And I stopped playing Destiny for like, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 months. It was like a chunk of time. And then Witch Queen was coming out and everyone was like super hyped for it. And like, oh, all this stuff, like everyone, oh man, Witch Queen's gonna be so awesome. And I think it was actually right after Witch Queen dropped. So like it had just released. And it was like getting all this good word of mouth stuff. I was like, sweet, time to get back to Destiny. I installed Destiny, booted it up. This is a player that has played thousands of hours of Destiny over the years. Played every expansion up to the newest expansion. Didn't play like the seasonal stuff in between, right? So I just took like an 8 or 9 month break, something like that. Boot the game up and have no idea what the hell is going on in terms of story, in terms of like modes, where to go. I'm not a new player. I'm a hardcore Destiny player. And I jump into the game and I'm like, what is happening in this game now? And there's no recap I don't know what to do. What's going on in the storyline? Why is this events like this now? When I left the game, it wasn't anything like this. And all that seasonal story stuff I can't do. So I installed it and never played it again. And I can only imagine what it's like for a new player. You got to boot that thing up and be like, what is this game? So yeah, I don't know. They need to never structure a game like Destiny 2 again. Like if they make a Destiny 3, they need to make sure that if someone's jumping into Destiny 3 5 years after the game comes out, they can play all the content in order from when it originally released so they know what is happening in that game. Frozen Wing. Hiroki Totoki clarified his comments last week about studios not understanding the business or working within budget was specifically targeted at Bungie. Yeah, more bad news for Bungie. Human, Marathon feels like trend chasing. I think it starts big and drops off fast. I don't know. Hopefully it's a huge hit. All these negative things I'm saying about Bungie, it's just coming from, I just don't think that they're running their business or games well. But I want them to. I want them to be super successful, so hopefully. Boca Loca TV, all that cash for Bungie and look how well Helldivers 2 is doing. Looks really dumb now. I think that when Sony bought Bungie, I thought that they thought Destiny would stay a juggernaut because it's been a juggernaut for so long, right? So I think they assumed that Destiny's going to, like the fall off for Destiny is rapid. That's the crazy thing. Like it's really collapsed like the last year. It wasn't even one of those things where it's like Destiny's been on a decline for the last 5. It like all of a sudden, I don't know. It just started crashing. I think they were surprised probably how fast Destiny's falling off. And I think they're probably optimistic that games like Marathon will be huge. But again, yeah, in the short term, does it look like a good buy right now? No. But that could all change in 1 year. 1 year from now, it could look like the smartest thing in the world. All right, just a couple things and I gotta go. Vex, Bungie, will Sony fully take over Bungie if Destiny DLC is a flop? I don't think Sony will feel confident letting Bungie release a new IP under their bad management, or will they wait for Marathon? I think a lot on Bungie's riding on Marathon. A lot. Yeah. A lot. So I don't know. Take over them, all these sort of things, I don't know. A lot's riding on Marathon. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. Even if their next expansion is a success, there's still a lot riding on Marathon. Because we've now seen that Destiny can really fall off. So even if they get players back with the new expansion, there's no guarantee that that's going to keep up 6 months after the expansion drops. So yeah, there's a lot riding on Marathon. There's a lot. They need Destiny 3. I've been saying that for a while. They need to make Destiny 3. I know that there's some people in the hardcore Destiny space that don't want that. Because they're like, oh, my guns and gear and all that stuff. Here's the problem, guys. They need more than you. Like, the super hardcores that are, like, playing Destiny every single day right now, like where we're at right now, the problem, guys, is they need people like me to come back to Destiny. They already have you. If you're still playing Destiny in February 2024, you're already there. What they need is they need people like me to come play Destiny. Someone that's not played Destiny since Witch Queen. And I think the only way they're going to get people like me, because I'll tell you, I'll never buy anything for Destiny 2 ever again. I'm not the only person saying that. And there's going to be people that are like me that will come back. But I'm saying, just using me as random generic example, I will never buy anything Destiny related ever again for Destiny 2. If they announced Destiny 3, clean start, fresh slate, guess what? I'm buying and playing Destiny 3 day one. They need to make Destiny 3. They really, really, really do. They really need to make Destiny 3. I think that's part of the answer for them. Not saying it fixes everything, but it's at least a step. Yep, this is true. Frozen Wing. Most of Spider-Man 2's crazy $315 million budget was spent on licensing. Disney's making bank. That they are, yes. The Disney license we found out is crazy. Boca Loca, what's the goal? Is PlayStation expecting animals and the elderly to start playing video games? If you're talking about growth, like we talked about last week, it's really going to come through PC. That's really the only area they can find a lot of growth. Consoles are too stagnant right now. All right, we're almost done. We're almost done. Oh, this is an interesting question. Vex, was Sony better off buying Hoyoverse for $8 billion than Bungie, even a regular publisher like Square Enix or Capcom? Again, I want to be a little careful about dooming Bungie too much, just because, you know, we don't know how things can shake out with Bungie. So, again, as negative as I am on them right now, I keep saying I'm trying to be a little careful because Marathon could be a giant hit. Like, we don't know. So I don't know. I don't know. Like, you know, someone like Capcom or Hoyoverse is going to cost so much more than Bungie. Let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. Here's what I'll tell you, Vex. If Marathon comes out and massively underperforms, at that point I won't like hedge any bets. I'll just outright say buying Bungie was a massive mistake. Right now, I'm not saying it's a massive mistake because we do know there's a new game coming. But yes, if Marathon comes out, is huge for a month and then falls off and no one plays it, then yeah, at that point, combined with Destiny falling off plus Marathon underperforming, I would say, yeah, they messed up. They shouldn't have bought Bungie. But I'm not quite there yet. I'm like getting that direction, but I'm not there yet. All right, almost done. I don't think there was any super chats I missed. Just a couple more, like one or two more, and then I gotta go, so I gotta get ready for work. Kellygram, what's up? Kellygram, channel member, what's up, dude? Great to see you, buddy. Saying, a little late to the chat. My question for the chat, does any negative press for Helldivers 2 servers actually hurt them? Seems like having too high of a player base is a good problem to have. Also, if you plan on playing it. Yeah, so like I said, and then Squadmate hit me up. Yeah, I will at some point when the servers are fixed. I do think that there is some negative impact on sales coming from this, sure. Sure, yeah. I mean, if the servers were perfect, do I think that they would be selling even more than they are right now? Yeah. The thing that's lucky for them is that it's a colossal success in spite of the servers, right? It's one of those things. But I've seen a lot of people posting that, like, totally going to jump into Helldivers 2 once the servers are fixed. So it's like, is the game already a colossal success? Yes. Like, there's no other way to phrase it. Even with the server issues, it's a colossal success. But could it have been even more? Like, it's already a colossal success. Could it have been a giga, mega, ultra colossal success if servers were perfect? Sure, could have sold even more. But, you know, I actually forgive them for this because literally no one saw this coming. So, you know, it's one thing whenever, like, let's say a new Call of Duty launches, if they have massive server problems, it's like, come on, you guys knew it's Call of Duty. Like, I'm not saying it's easy, but, you know, it's a call. You guys knew you're going to sell millions and millions and millions of copies day one. No one saw this coming. I guarantee you Sony and Arrowhead did not see this coming. So I'm a little more forgiving of them than I am of, like, somebody else. Just because it's such a crazy out of nowhere success. All right, I'm just pulling one or two out, and then I'm going to go. Blazing Flame, do you think... I didn't expect this to turn into the Bungie chat. I'm surprised we got here, but, I mean, it's a good discussion. Do you think Bungie is stepping back from overseeing PlayStation Studios live service titles? Do you think their mismanagement led to live service cancellations? I don't want to say too much about what happened, about, like, Bungie oversight things that were rumored to be happening within Sony, because I don't know. You know, there were some rumors. I don't think it was ever confirmed. I can't even remember who the reports were. They might have been very reliable. I can't remember, but there were reports that part of the reason The Last of Us multiplayer got canceled was because Bungie. I will say if that was true, if I was Sony, I wouldn't be letting Bungie have any influence on any decisions right now. I'm not trying to be mean because, listen, there was a time that Bungie was like seen as like they were like the live service people out there right now. I think those days are over. I would not be allowing Bungie to influence any decision making in terms of like release. Like just good advice for my studios, sure, right? Like if like Bungie, because they do have a lot of experience with live service. It's not that they have no experience and like we should just write them off now. I'm saying if it's true though, and I have no idea if it is, that literally part of the reason The Last of Us multiplayer was canceled was because Bungie said it wasn't viable. If I was Sony, I would never allow Bungie to make any decision ever again. I wouldn't, because I'm questionable about Bungie's current planning. Let's just say. But we'll see. Do you think the next Call of Duty will be revealed at the Xbox Summer Showcase? No. It'll have its own event like always. Call of Duty is big enough it gets its own event. So no. My answer to that would be no. Just because Microsoft owns them now doesn't mean it's going to go on an Xbox show. Call of Duty is too big. It's its own thing. You know, just like a Grand Theft Auto doesn't get announced at someone's showcase. Grand Theft Auto is big enough, it gets its own stage. Call of Duty is the same way. Now, I know they'll do, like, campaign reveals at, like, PlayStation shows and stuff, but, like, Call of Duty, when it gets revealed, Call of Duty is its own thing. They'll do the same thing. Call of Duty gets its own spot. Almost out. Prince. After watching Zepla HQ, MTQ Capture, Arthar, Zavix, Matsuzuke, Osmongold, I know that one. Wolfie VGC, Toadsters, like basically a bunch of YouTubers. YouTube's recommended me your streams. Well, thank you. I'm sure they are all far larger than me. The only one that I know on there is Asmongold, but that's cool that I got recommended. I'll be honest, I don't think I'm very like in the algorithm because of the way my content works, but cool. I'm always glad to see new people find me. 99% of people that find me through Twitter. That's 99%. If this was your first time ever as part of my live chat, that's where like most of my audience is. I'm mostly basically a Twitter guy that also just does like YouTube streams once a week to chat with like my audience. But I will tell you, I'm not like some major content creator guy. I just do the live chats because I love them. All right, I think I'm going to go. Even though there's still a lot of good stuff, but I gotta go. I gotta get ready for work. Roos, is there anything that can be done to reduce the amount of time it takes to make a AAA game? I'm only addressing this because I always want to make it clear in case a dev ever sees a clip of me saying games take too long or something. To be clear, I do not have the answer for this. I am not a developer. I'm not blaming devs. I have quite literally no idea what you would do to make AAA games come out faster. The only observation I'm making is it's like, not that it's like a grand observation that no one else sees, but it's just like one of those things like it needs to be said. I'm just making the observation it's unsustainable. That's it. It's just me being like, guys, you can't always have games take 6 years to come out or else the industry will die. Like for AAA, it will collapse at some point. So that's me. I'm just the canary in the coal mine, okay? I'm just the canary in the coal mine saying we can't do this forever. And then it's like up to devs and tech and stuff to try and figure something out. But I'm just being the canary in the coal mine. That's all I'm doing. I'm just shouting the warning. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. Just like Sean Layden was doing a couple years back. I'm just riding that wave of warning people. This can't keep going. But I don't have the answer. I'm not a dev. I have no idea how you do it. All right, guys. I got to go. Did everyone get one question answered? I wish I could go longer, but we didn't even talk about Final Fantasy that much. It's my thumbnail, and we didn't even talk about it that much. Oops. some rando is going to jump into the stream because they're going to see like the Final Fantasy thumbnail and they're going to be like, oh, I want to, see a video talking about Final Fantasy. And then they're going to be like, yeah, they spent about 5 minutes talking about Final Fantasy and about 30 minutes talking about Bungie. This is one of those videos where the thumbnail does not match the discussion. I thought it was going to be tons of talk about, Square Enix and Final Fantasies that go into Xbox ever and all that. No, we talked about Final Fantasy for like 5 minutes. It was basically the Bungie chat. I think there was a couple channel members I saw that didn't get something. Dev, do you think facts that Sony haven't been able to bring the production cost of the PS5 down combined with less than expected sales will impact their decision to not release the PS5 Pro? I have no inside information on this, but all reports are that PS5 Pro is still coming this year. There's even new articles coming out from Bloomberg and stuff saying analysts are all expecting it. So I think they'll do it. I just think it's going to be $600. That's what I said last chat. I think they will do a Pro, and I think it's going to be $600. So they're going to make you pay up. If you want a Pro, you're going to spend that money. And if it's anything else less than that, amazing. But I am fully at this point expecting PS5 Pro to cost $599. But I still think it comes out. Because I suspect they won't sell it at a loss. It'll just be like that's it. No, this is totally true, Dorian Gray. Kind of annoyed people act like console games are the only big games. Like Riot isn't a juggernaut with League of Legends, the biggest esports in the world, and Valorant, the biggest shooter on Twitch. No, you're 100% right. You're 100% right. I still find it bizarre that Valorant's not on console. Overwatch is a more complicated game than Valorant is, and I'm only using Overwatch as an example because they actually do share a lot of audience. There's a lot of people that play Valorant and Overwatch. And Overwatch is more complicated than Valorant is, and that runs fine on console. I'm shocked they haven't brought Valorant to console. I actually think that's a huge missed opportunity. As huge as Riot is, I think they can make a lot of money putting Valorant on console. I think it's insane they haven't done that yet. League I get, but Valorant, why would you not? That's crazy, dude. Having Valorant out on console is big mistake in my opinion. All right. I gotta go. All right, we're gonna go there. I wish I could keep going, but I have to go to work. Thanks everyone for another great live chat. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. We do one of these chats every single week. Follow me on Twitter if you don't already. That's where I'm most active. That's where pretty much everyone knows me from. Like the video if you haven't. It helps the YouTube algorithm. As always, stay safe, play some games. I will catch you guys all either here on next week if you only follow me here, or I will see you on Twitter very, very soon. Have a good one, everybody. Thanks. Bye. Peace and love.